Hey YouTube, what's going on? Son of Sanguinius here, and today I am going to be bringing you my very first book review. This will be a Space Marine Battles book, and in particular this will be Shield of Baal, written by Josh Reynolds, Brandon Campbell, and Joe Perino. So, Shield of Baal, overall I think it's decent. It starts with a really solid beginning. The first, part, starting with, Terminators, the first company, and, fighting, Gene Stealers, that sort of, classic, kind of battle, kind of reminiscent of, Space Hulk from way back when. And, the middle of the book is okay, and the ending is kind of meh, but, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. So, I should make it very clear that this is, a Space Marine Battles book, Shield of Baal. It actually ties in very nicely with the Exterminata supplement, and it really sort of sets up everything for what takes place later in Exterminatus and later on in Angel's Blade. So, this book consists of 3 parts. Each of them are basically 3 separate stories, hence the 3 different authors of the book. And as such, I'll probably start, with the review by breaking down each one of these, I guess, smaller books within the book. Inception much, but we'll just dive right into it. So the first story is Deathstorm. This focuses on Captain Carlayan, the first company captain of the Archangels, and his Terminators looking for the planetary governor of Asphodex. And they make their landing, and Carlayan is, of course, the main character, with the occasional chapter sort of focusing in on the Broodlord, and it goes into the mind of the Broodlord and how the Broodlord sees the world, and how he interprets the Terminators and all that kind of stuff. Really interesting to sort of see how a Tyranid thinks. It was quite interesting, especially when you see like the little glimpses of humanity that are still within the Patriarch with regards to its relationship with the planetary governor. But the thing to talk about, with Captain Carlayan, I mentioned this, a little bit in my Why I Play Blood Angels video, but Carlayan, he really comes off as a very humble, withered, and questioning captain. That's not to say he's not badass, but I was actually kind of taken aback by how much Carlayan is constantly judging himself for the actions that he's made in the past. He talks about how he, at first, when he first became captain, was very prideful and very very eager to get into battle and do all these kinds of things. And Captain Carlayan is not a coward by any stretch of the word, but he talks about how his experiences and the losses of the men under his command have kind of brought him to a place of humility. He understands that these men that are fighting alongside him, that are obeying his orders, are going to live and die essentially by his word. So he's constantly trying to evaluate his judgments. He's constantly thinking about ways that he could have done things differently. He's very self-critical, and I think it speaks to his character that he is not that sort of arrogant, prideful kind of leader that we see in things like the Angels and Carmine. He is instead a very humble, a very kind of withered, questioning captain, but he is still badass nonetheless. And honestly, I really do appreciate that, Carlayan, was actually, kind of had, that sort of human, a little bit more, human side to him, as opposed to, greetings, honorable battle brother. What are you doing today, honorable battle brother? Oh, nothing. I'm just purging Xenos, honorable battle brother. Very well. We shall know no fear. That sort of thing. And luckily, Captain Carlayan was not the only character who was like that. There were some others, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So as for the overall, pacing of the book, Deathstorm specifically, a nice mix of tension, action, and a touch of humor. The tension, it kind of has that old like Space Hulk feel where they're sort of running through this, the governor's palace. They're trying to search through the area surrounding the palace and trying to find out where this governor is. There's gene stealers and Tyranids around every corner. They're coming at them. They do take some losses. They fight back. They earn a pretty big kill count. By the end of it, and it's really nice. Now you may be scratching your head, going, "Hey, Son of Sanguinis, you said humor. What are you talking about?" Well, luckily the characters and the other Space Marines that are with Captain Carlan, they actually have character to them. They are not robot-like Marines. You have in Captain Carlan's squad, you have. Alphaeus, the sergeant of the squad, who's, kind of like a grizzled veteran. You have another guy who's, all about, I don't know their names off the top of my head, so please forgive me for that. But, you have another guy who's, very, logical in everything that he does. He's very, stalwart and, doesn't really laugh a lot. Of course, to offset that, you do have a prankster, whatever, who, is constantly making jokes and, kind of laughing and kind of, cheerfully chastising Captain Carlan as he went along. I was actually kind of surprised that you had like one of the men under Captain Carlan be like, "Yeah, Captain, what, this kind of sucks." He didn't actually say that, but hopefully I'm conveying the idea that he was sort of chastising the captain for events that happened before, and when they purge Space Hulks together, they talk about that kind of stuff. And then interestingly enough, there was also two brothers that when they were neophytes, they were not related at all. However, due to some quirk in the process of implanting the gene seed, they basically took on very similar appearances to each other, and they actually, like, throughout the entire book of Deathstorm, they actually, like, complete each other's sentences. So, like, one will begin, a sentence or whatever, and then the other will, like, finish it. It was very weird. It was interesting. It was kind of like I said. It kind of like threw me off a little bit because I was expecting stalwart Marines here, but I guess it's not why we play Blood Angels. And it was nice to see that the characters in this book actually had character. So that was awesome. And overall, the first part of the book, Deathstorm, was amazing, and I loved it. And I kind of wish it stuck with it, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. So, the next book in Shield of Baal is Tempestus. This focuses on the story of an Inquisitor working with Militarum Tempestus and Sisters of Battle. Honestly, this was an interesting switch going from, Terminators to, Scions and Sisters of Battle, because you kind of realize that not everyone is this invincible war machine running around in Terminator armor. I guess like the one thing to highlight is the main problem for the Terminators was having to take on an entire city full of gene stealers and Tyranids and forming up in formation and basically just gunning them all down. Whereas one of the big challenges for the Sisters of Battle and the Scions was how to cross a river. Things like this that kind of remind you, what? Not everyone is this, invincible demigod of war. There are some guys who, are still tricking it. Still have to figure out, how they're going to get their vehicle across, an overflowing riverbed. But so it was interesting switch going from the high octane action, of Terminators and Gene Stealers, versus sort of the the lesser stuff, seeing, Scions and Sisters of Battle and an Inquisitor dealing with this cult that is on Lysos. What else did Tempestus have? It had some pretty decent action in it, a tad bit of humor, and I just say a tad. There were a couple instances where the canoness of the Sisters of Battle and the Inquisitor didn't really see eye to eye. A couple, moments of back and forth between, the Scions and the Inquisitor and that sort of thing. Humor isn't necessarily explicit, but it's more so just like everyone's reaction to the situation that they're in. For example, the Inquisitor was kind of bitching and moaning that they kept on getting off track. They kept on getting stuck out in the wilderness of this planet, and it was interesting just to kind of see how whiny and bitchy the Inquisitor is. It really kind of puts things into perspective, as far as the life experiences of a Sister of Battle, a Scion, and an Inquisitor. Finally, Tempestus did have a really nice fight toward the end. I won't spoil too much, but it's very reminiscent of one of those classic Last Stand moments that we've come to expect from 40K. So, that leaves the last book, called Devourer, and this focuses on Necrons with a little bit of Blood Angel splashed in. So, I'll be upfront about this. I enjoy the Blood Angel stuff, but I really had a hard time getting into the stuff about the Necrons, and that's not to disrespect any Necron players or anything out there. It's just I bought the book for Blood Angels, and I was really only interested in reading about Blood Angels, and I felt kind of disappointed by this being like the last chapter of the book. It just sort of it didn't really catch me. They started going on and on like really deep into the Necron fluff and all that, and I could tell because as a non-Necron player, I had no idea what the hell anyone was talking about. Something about a curse or disease among the Necrons and all this stuff going on, and they did briefly mention the they referenced the previous alliance between the Blood Angels and the Necrons, as one of the Necron dudes had like a couple of Blood Angel knives or whatever, combat knives with sort of the winged blood drop or whatever in them, referenced in the beginning of the book. And they did sort of splash in some actual Blood Angels following Sergeant J. Deal and his squad. Who were basically ordered by Commander Dante to, oversee this planet. So it was that was interesting, but the Necron stuff, as a non-Necron player, I had no idea what the hell was going on. They kept on bringing up a whole bunch of stuff I didn't have any context for, and frankly, I find myself just sort of skimming through the pages, just looking for, okay, are the Blood Angels here? No. 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 So that was my most of my experience with Devourer. However, when it did talk about the Blood Angels, it was awesome, and again, there was a really epic last stand moment for the Blood Angels at the end of Devourer. It was Sergeant JDL and a squad facing off against Tyranids and getting some help from an unlikely ally. Not sure you guys are going to be able to guess who, but it was certainly epic. It was certainly awesome, and all three of these books tie in nicely with the Exterminata supplement and Angels Blade later on. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear more about these characters, later on in the Devastation of Baal book that's going to be coming out later this year. So overall, I think it's a decent book. I would have liked it if it stayed closer to the Blood Angels, simply because, with a name like Shield of Baal, I was like, oh, hey, this is going to be, all about Blood Angels. But unfortunately, it wasn't necessarily that. I didn't necessarily mind like the Inquisition and the Sisters of Battle stuff. That was interestingly, enough. And to the credit with Devourer, I did find it very, interesting to sort of see like how a Necron views the world, and how, they had an absolute, like an absolute hatred for the flesh and all things living. That was interesting to hear and read about, like how they went about, exercising, their will, and talking about their former war in heaven with the Eldar and all that kind of stuff. So that was interesting, but for the most part, would have liked it if they stick with Blood Angels. But overall, I feel like it's a decent book. Solid beginning, okay middle, and kind of a meh end. But at least it had the decency to end off on an epic last stand moment for the Blood Angels. at the end of the book. So anyway, that's all I got time for in this video. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you've liked the book or if you're interested in the book. I got my personal copy at Barnes & Noble. I don't know where you guys are, but anywhere that they sell, Space Marine Battle books, you'll probably be able to find this one. So anyway, that's all I got time for in this video. Like I said, feel free to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.